Hey guys, I'm Wholesome Joe. Welcome back to my channel. And today I have a very special and very quick video that I didn't think I was going to even do another video this week. I did an ASMR video earlier this week that nobody watched. And I was like, well, maybe I'll do something else. And then all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in my brain and I had this great idea. So I don't know if you've been paying attention or not, but there was a pretty big event that happened the 20th. I wanna see you out that door, baby, bye, bye, bye. There was a presidential election, and we have a new president, and we have a new vice president, and there was an inauguration. J-Lo was there, Lady Gaga sang the national anthem. It was pretty freaking sweet. They had fireworks, Foo Fighters played, pretty awesome. However, that is not the most awesome thing that happened that day, because a lot of people noticed a certain someone sitting in the audience wearing a jacket and a pretty awesome pair of gloves. I don't know if you've seen it on the internet, as it were, but the internet being the crazy place that it is, I'm sure at this point you have seen at least one Bernie Sanders sitting in a chair at the inauguration meme. Now, you're thinking to yourself, Joe, I want to make one of these memes. All of my friends are doing it. Everyone's posting all these awesome memes, and I just want to be part of that fun and part of the excitement of spreading the internet with more and more Bernie Sanders memes. And you know what? I got you, because I'm here to help. I've been seeing a lot of memes, and at this point, there are so many of them that they're honestly not all the highest quality.
Crap. Pure, unadulterated crap.
So, I'm here to inform you that there is an art form to creating the perfect Bernie Sanders sitting in a chair at the inauguration meme. And I'm here to tell you 5, maybe 6 steps in order to create the perfect Bernie Sanders meme. Let's jump right into it. Step 1. So, you've got an idea for a Bernie Sanders meme. You don't really know exactly how to approach it. But one of the things that I see most often when I'm seeing different Bernie Sanders memes all over the internet is that people have a tendency to just take whatever random photo that they can think of and they just kind of stick Bernie in the photo, which is cool. Maybe it's somewhere they've been, maybe it's a place they work, and those are all really cool. They have sort of a personal standpoint that they're coming from, but I feel very strongly that location and atmosphere is very important, because if you want to fool the internet into believing that Bernie Sanders is actually in the location that you have put him in, because Bernie Sanders, let's be honest, can be anywhere at any time. You have to put some thought into it. So the first thing you should do when you decide to make a Bernie Sanders meme is to, 1, think about location. The location needs to be logical, and it needs to make sense. He's sitting in a chair. That's the first thing you need to think about. He's sitting in a chair. So if you choose a place in which someone sitting in a chair would make sense, you're already on the right path to making a really good Bernie meme. So think about where Bernie might be. Is he going to Hooters? Is he going to be at the Kennedy Space Center? Is he going to watch a movie? Is he going to crash an important event in history, like the inauguration, perhaps? So location is very important. So the more clever of a location that you can come up with, the funnier your meme will be. And not only that, when you're deciding on your location, you need to make sure that placement is important. You don't want to put Bernie just kind of like anywhere. It needs to make sense. So think about, if someone was sitting in a chair, would they just be sitting in a chair in the middle of the road? I mean, I guess that's kind of funny. But the more thought you're able to put into where Bernie is actually located, the better. On to tip number 2. So tip number 2 is kind of a bonus tip, because a lot of people don't think about this, and they're wasting a perfect opportunity to get some laughs, and that is using Bernie's hands. So Bernie's wearing these pretty cool patterned winter gloves that everyone's freaking out over, and he's kind of got his arms in this weird, whatever kind of position that is. And a lot of people just completely ignore that in their Bernie memes. But there's so much you can do with Bernie's arms. You can have him holding a gun. You can have him holding a baseball bat. He can have somebody in a headlock. There's just so many different things that you can do. The more that you can utilize Bernie's arms and hands and his awesome mittens or his gloves in your meme, the funnier your meme will be. On to step 3. Think outside the Bernie box. He doesn't always have to just be sitting in a chair in a location. There are definitely other things that you can do to make the most out of your Bernie meme. One of my favorites that I have seen so far, and I will flash it on the screen here momentarily, is the Bernie meme where someone took Bernie sitting in the chair and put him in the pattern of Melania Trump's dress as they were leaving the White House on Air Force One. Literally every pattern of her dress, there's Bernie sitting in the chair. It's so clever. It's so perfect. It's one of the best. And it's not just Bernie sitting in a parking lot, or Bernie sitting at a church, or Bernie sitting wherever you want Bernie to sit. It is you just got to think outside the box. You got to think outside the Bernie box. Tip number 4. If you're like me and you went to art school, or you're artistic at all, or you draw or you paint, then you understand something called perspective. Now, Joe, what is perspective? Well, basically, for those of you at home who don't know what perspective is, Google it. That is the best way to learn what perspective is. But basically, it's the general idea that the closer you are to something, or the further away you are, affects the size of that thing. So, for example, if Bernie is in the background of a scene, he's going to appear smaller than if he is in the foreground of the scene. So, if you put Bernie in a scene where he's sitting in the audience and there are other characters that are closer to the camera, then Bernie should be smaller. If Bernie is right up front, say for example he's sitting on the bench with Forrest Gump, he would be much larger than if he were behind the bench. So perspective is important. You want everyone seeing your Bernie meme to be immersed in the meme, right? You want to feel like Bernie is actually there, and you can do that with perspective. Tip number 5, and we're getting to the end because I wanted to make this video quick. I still have to edit it. So tip number 5, incorporate your surroundings. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean incorporate your surroundings? Aren't the surroundings just the scene of the movie that I've decided to import Bernie into, the old family photo that I've decided to put Bernie into? Whatever the case is, you should incorporate the surroundings. Now, what I mean by that is when you put Bernie into the scene, you've taken all of this time meticulously using the lasso tool in Photoshop to cut Bernie out in order to paste him somewhere else. You've taken all of the time to go pixel by pixel to make sure that your Bernie cutout is absolutely flawless. But what about the tree branch that's fallen in front of his face? What about the small child that is obscuring Bernie's legs? You got to do something about that. You can't just paste Bernie over things. You have to make Bernie immersed into the scene. So if you're going to replace another person, if you're going to put Bernie in place of another person, let's say Bernie's sitting in a movie theater, and you're going to put Bernie over someone else who is sitting in a seat in the theater, you can't just paste him there. You have to get rid of the other person. You have to cut off their legs. You have to make it look like Bernie is actually sitting in the movie theater. If there's another chair in front of him that's obscuring part of his legs, that's okay. That's what makes it real. That's how you fool people into believing that Bernie is actually in the location that he's in. So for example, I made one for my movie, and I'm going to do a quick plug for that. My movie is called The Marks. It's a wrestling comedy about backyard wrestling, featuring a bunch of old school WCW wrestlers. You can check that out. I will leave a link to it in the description. But in this meme that I made from my movie The Marks, you'll notice that Bernie Sanders is sitting at ringside with one of the other commentators in the scene, and there is another person sitting in the chair that he is sitting in, and I did paste him over that person. But you'll also notice that the edge of the table is visible because I cut Bernie in such a way that the table is still in the foreground, as well as the ring rope. You'll notice that the ring rope is going right through his face because that's how it would look if he were actually sitting at the table. So you have to keep those things in mind. Another example, this meme that I made from Ghostbusters, right? This is a very iconic scene in Ghostbusters. You've got Rick Moranis sitting there in the chair being examined by Dr. Egon Spengler, and he's got the colander on his head. So the trick there was not only was Bernie positioned differently than Louis Tully is in the movie, but the way I made it feel seamless is by making sure that he was also wearing the colander, because that's key to the Ghostbusters scene. If you have seen the movie, then you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. Yes, have some. So those are things that you just have to keep in mind, that you have to incorporate him into the scene. You can't just paste him over a picture. Does that make sense? I hope it does. The last tip that I have for you in order to make the perfect Bernie meme, it doesn't matter what software you're using. You can be using Photoshop, you can use GIMP, you can use MS Paint. I don't recommend it, but you could use MS Paint to make your Bernie meme, and no one would know as long as you follow the rest of the tips in this guide. Now, the final tip. You must use the blur tool. Why? Because nobody likes a jagged edged Bernie. If you've taken an hour or even just 10 minutes to cut Bernie out of the inauguration photo, you have to make sure that the edges around Bernie are soft. You don't want hard, sharp edges. That is the number one telltale sign that Bernie is not actually in the location that you have chosen for him to be in. If you can see the jagged edges around, and I know it's difficult, he's got those flyaway hairs, you know, there's some tricky angles that you have to cut around, but you have to do it if you want the perfect Bernie meme. Use the blur tool, go all the way around the edges of Bernie and make sure he is nice and soft. If you need to take it a step further, if you have Bernie in a scene and he's in the background and there's some shallow depth of field and you want to replicate that, you can use a Gaussian blur, you can use a motion blur. It depends on the type of blur that is in the scene already. But for example, if you go back to the meme that I showed you earlier from my movie, you'll notice that he has a slight blur to him because the other elements that are on the same plane as him are all blurred as well. So it just makes everything look a lot more seamless if you do that. So use the blur tool, use your surroundings, use Bernie's hands, come up with a clever, out-of-the-box idea, think about perspective, and you will be well on your way to creating the perfect Bernie Sanders sitting in a chair at the inauguration meme. And all of your friends will love you. I hope this helps. If you like this video, like and subscribe. See you next time.